Hello, and welcome to Brunson.
Welcome to Pro Striking. I went a bit weird there because sometimes when you're being really anonymous, you can do that. Today, I'm going to do a little look at a big fight, or in my opinion, it's a big fight. Because I'm not a dirty casual, or as Jack Slack would say, a filthy casual. So we've got Brad Riddell versus Gregor Gillespie, and this for me is a big fight on the undercard of Brunson versus Kevin Holland, which again is another big fight. Stylistically, this is a brilliant matchup, and Brad Riddell has been given a murderer's row of opponents since he's been in the UFC. And this is no different. Gregor Gillespie, for me, is one of the best fighters in the lightweight division, despite his last fight being a stoppage loss to Kevin Lee, who arguably could be in the top 5. He's a strange one, Kevin Lee. He has some fantastic performances and then just strange ones where he blows a bit hot and cold. But losing to Kevin Lee is absolutely no shame in that, because he's a massive lightweight. He's huge. And he's another one that's been calling for an in-between division, like a 165-pound weight class would probably be ideal for him, because he's a bit small for 170, even though he did go up there and dabble. Back to Gillespie, we'll start with, and a little look at his skill set. He is a phenomenal wrestler. Currently stands now 13-1 in MMA, training out of Long Island MMA, and he's a former collegiate wrestler, a 4-time NCAA Division 1 All-American, and a national champion, which for me, as far as I'm aware, as a person from the UK, that is like a 5-star wrestler. So size-wise, Brad and Gillespie match up pretty similarly, I think. Brad's probably a little bit thicker because he did compete most of his career as a kickboxer at what would be welterweight, around 76 to 78 kilo. But I don't think he was cutting a tremendous amount of weight for that. So looking at Gillespie, his wrestling is just superb. He really is just brilliant. He's brilliant in the transitions, great single leg, double legs, body locks. He covers distance really well. He's very explosive and athletic. This is one of his earlier fights in his career where you can see he starts fast, Gregor. Like, he does start fast. He's not scared to get the ball rolling straight away. So he's gone straight in for a double leg there. And if you just notice now, he sucks the hips, controls and shelves the legs, puts the legs on his leg to try and stop his opponent from being able to escape his hips, because you need to be able to push off the floor to escape your hips. So Gregor's very good at like neutralizing that. And he's just like a wet blanket. Just the way he transitions from various attacks, single leg, double leg, body lock, snap downs. He just seems to flow really well, which is no surprise given his wrestling credentials. But if you just look at this fight now, he's just smothering. The guy can't get off him. He's got top chest pressure all the time, always controlling the head and just stripping away bases. Control the head, you control the body basically in grappling, and head position's vital. And Gregor just always does a very good job of that. Here he's like kind of grapevining the legs there and engaging his hips to really make it difficult for his opponent to push and recover his hips, which he needs to do to recover his legs. Gregor's just softening up ground and pound. The opponent's obviously trying to break his posture by hugging him, but you can't really do that for too long. Here's Gregor, one of his trademarks is a head and arm triangle. His opponent did really well to escape that. He's ended up back underneath him though, and that's the thing with Gregor, he's just smothering. And his top position is superb. And this is, for Brad, he needs to be able to just avoid this. Because if you let Gregor mount you're going to be in all sorts of problems. He's a step ahead of his opponent all the time, using the hips to flatten his opponent out. And in this exchange, he just forces his opponent back or mount and take punches. Give up your back, get choked out, or take punches in the face. And that's his opponent's options right now. He can't recover the legs. And his opponent, I'll take my hat off to him, does really well in basically surviving for as long as he did. But Gregor's, he's pinching his knees together there, making it difficult for his opponent to recover. And just riding him, keeping his weight on him all the time, sucking the hips, blocking the hips. He just does a solid job all round. Flattening him out again. I mean, miserable, absolutely miserable. Anyone that's, grappled for any length of time knows that this is just a nightmare. It looked like his opponent tapped then, but you can't do that. His opponent did complain about that, but nothing wrong with that for me. Okay, so moving on to Brad Riddell. So far, the UFC have not done him any favours fighting Magomed Mustafayev, who's a good wrestler. Cage wrestling in that fight. A lot of the fight was spent up against the cage, and Brad just did a phenomenal job, really, not giving up his back and finding a way to his feet continuously, whilst in the striking exchange is just, he's a level above. His training's obviously out of City Kickboxing with Eugene Behrman. What more can you ask for? There's obviously trainers like Mike Angove. My friend's working at the moment at Dan Hooker's gym, so I know a little bit about City Kickboxing. All of them high-level kickboxers, hence the name City Kickboxing. Where, yeah, here you can see Brad just getting some training. And he's got a connection with Tiger Muay Thai, which linked him up with Alexander Volkanovski, because Volkanovski got a scholarship, or he won the tryouts for Tiger Muay Thai. And then that's how they linked together. And obviously Volk's a phenomenal wrestler, similar body type to Brad. So them two working together is just a recipe for success. And then I think the Hickman brothers were introduced over at Tiger Muay Thai, and they play a role now in the training at City Kickboxing and helping those guys basically be anti-grapplers, like how to avoid getting held down on the floor and utilise your strength, which is your striking. They're all just very good at that. And Eugene makes sure they're all really physically fit. They go through like horrendous circuits they call Spider. That is basically pushing their aerobic capacity and lactic acid to the limits. So they're always in top condition, the City Kickboxing boys, which plays a big part when you're fighting a wrestler. Obviously, we've seen with Gregor Gillespie, he's going to push a pace, and that smothering style is going to cause you to feel tired, which is going to then sap your striking, and it kind of levels the playing field. But Brad, technically, to watch him, he can't rely on attributes like Israel, so he has to be much more proficient in what he's doing, basically. And because he spent time in Thailand, he's obviously had a few Thai boxing fights, throwing the elbows, even though he's predominantly a K1 stylist with his striking. He has fought Muay Thai, and he's not out of place in Muay Thai either. His kickboxing career, he's fought high-level people. I think his record is about 59 wins, 10 losses, so nearly 70 fights, and he's won most of them. But then the thing to note about Brad, even though he's a phenomenal striker, he's not a one-punch knockout guy. He's a clinician, so he's very, very technical. And that's where he does have the massive advantage against Gregor. But Gregor's no slouch. Like, Gregor is good on the feet, and Gregor actually has got a few one-punch knockouts on his resume. But he keeps his head on the centre line. I think with Brad, that's a problem, because Brad is just going to be way more technical boxing. And I think he's due a knockout, really, Brad. So he's fought the elite of the elite. He's fought Region Urson in one championship. He's obviously fought, I think this is Myrtle Groenhart's brother, Fernando Groenhart. I love that fight. Just you see everything in that fight, all the fakes and the feints. It's up on YouTube on the Power Play promotions, and you just see Brad go through all his toolbox in that fight. And his other fight with Frankie Georgie, great fight to watch, to have a look at his technique and his skill set. Just master feinter and distance control, which he needs as a smaller fighter. He's got frames, measures. You got to be a bit more careful in MMA with the frames because of the old, eye pokes with the fingers being exposed, so you can't utilise it as much. But Brad's combinations, to look at him, he's beautiful to watch. He's one of my favourite fighters to watch compete. And even though he's not a knockout merchant, he's freaking exciting. So Brad his only blemish is to Abel Bright's an Australian vet on the Hex promotions, and he lost by armbar. So he basically made a bit of a tactical mistake here, where he allowed Abel to pull guard and go to his game, which is jiu-jitsu. And Brad probably stayed down a bit too long. He left his arms exposed, and Abel caught him in an armbar, and I'm sure Brad was gutted about that, because it was about a minute into the fight. But where you see Brad come on leaps and bounds is those first few fights in the UFC where you're like, okay, that's not the same man that fought Abel Bright. He's put the time in to his mixed martial arts and his grappling in particular. And you can tell by his ears. His ears are... I don't remember him having cauliflower ears in kickboxing, and then all of a sudden they were like terrible. No offense, Brad, if you see this, but his ears just went completely cauliflowered in a very short amount of time, which just, shows how much time he was putting in on the mat. So his fight with De Silva, I mean, that was just beautiful. And he just shows his defensive awareness now. Like, he knows where he is and what he's doing. He uses the cage well. And then obviously he's striking. He just picked him apart on the feet. And De Silva looked like he tired. He looked like he gassed out a little bit. And Brad just picked him off. And then the takedowns got sloppier. And Brad actually reversed him really nicely with like a whizzer throw at one point. I just thought it was brilliant to see him utilise grappling like that. So his fight with Kin Song, you saw some of his grappling defence, but in that fight, to be honest, it was more his distance management. It was a slow-paced fight, and this again at welterweight. Like, Song outweighed him probably by about 5 or 6 kilo, and which is about 12 pounds. Brad showed defensive awareness in this fight. His distance management, his jab feints were just superb in this particular fight. I mean, not a lot happened really, and that was down to Brad's. He managed to slow the pace down to obviously avoid the shots for the most part, and he got a stoppage. Just lovely technique, and he's so precise with his shots. He's not a massive puncher, although you wouldn't want to get hit by him. When he gets going, his left hook is the money. So predictions on this fight, I literally have no idea. I think it is a genuinely 50-50 contest, and you're really going to see who's going to move up the pecking order into that top echelon of, top 15, top 10 guys in lightweight, which is absolutely stacked. There's so many good fights for both of these guys, regardless of the result of this one. Gregor's stand-up a little bit too upright for me. He doesn't move his head enough, but he has got good boxing and good power because he's such an athletic specimen. If he hits you, he's going to hurt you. I actually would maybe give him the edge in power over Riddell. But what Riddell has is just cleaner, tidier combinations, better head movement, better defence on the feet, and overall just much cleaner striking and more variety in his arsenal. He has the kicks to come to. He has the knees and elbows, things that Gregor doesn't really show. He's more of a boxer that doesn't move his head too much. I mean, I could see Brad knocking him out, genuinely, purely based on that, but I could not see Gregor knocking Brad out. Brad's just made of granite. So that's the difference. Even though I give Gregor maybe the edge in knockout punching power, I just don't think many people at lightweight have got the potential to knock out Brad with one punch. Only maybe it's people like, the likes of Gaethje who knocks anyone out with one punch. So I think this is a really 50-50 fight, and it's all going to depend on Brad Riddell's distance management, because if they get into any sort of grappling exchanges, I know Brad's defences look superb, but Gregor, he chains things together too well, and he's a wet blanket. Like, if he gets on Brad, it's not just going to be one takedown attempt. It's going to be 3, 4, 5. It's just going to string them all together, and that's where Brad could come a bit unstuck. Particularly, Gregor starts a fast pace, so if we get into the second round and Brad starts to fatigue from heavy grappling, that could diminish his striking potential. So that's the main thing that Brad's got to watch out for, which I think he can do well with his distance management, mixing his kicks in, particularly leg kicks, probably the calf kick as well, to slow Gregor down, and using the shifts and the feints and his jab pumps into his hooks around the side, and using those things to close the distance, or using his fakes to bait a rush shot from Gregor, which Brad can then see come in, and countering off the back of that and mounting his attacks off of his feints. So they're the keys to victory for Riddell, and obviously Gillespie get a hold of Brad and just, get into a groove of what he does. I imagine Gregor will be looking to try and get a mount. If Gregor gets mount on Brad, it's a concern. So they're the type of things I'm sure Brad's been working in the gym. Do not get mounted by Gregor Gillespie, and watch certain submissions that he's going to go for from there, like the head and arm triangle. But I can't wait for this fight. I think it's brilliant. I think the card's pretty good as well. Brunson Holland's going to be a good fight. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share. Leave your opinion down in the comments. And once again, thanks for watching.